Welcome back. I chose Canucks. I'm like, you know what? To heck with it. I'm going to choose Canucks. I'm going to be an optimist. I'm going to wear the Flying V Canucks because I've been watching since they wore this and thought it was a good idea. 20 guys sit in a locker room and go, you go first. I, I couldn't. After you. So, what happened so far? We're a little over 3 hours into free agency. This could go for a while. There's a lot of guys still making up their minds, including Stastny, Goudreau, a lot of guys making up their minds. Klingberg, who apparently circled back to potentially Dallas. So I'm going to talk about players who change teams, not players who re-signed or staying with the same team. It's great that Colorado's keeping almost everybody. Not everybody, although they have been talking to Kadri, so that potential's still there that Kadri returns and they keep the band together. But I want to talk about guys who are going to new teams. And we're going to go through Pacific, Central, Atlantic, Metro. All right. And there are teams who don't have a name next to them. And I went with the notables who likely play a bunch of games in the NHL. And that can be unpredictable. So for Anaheim, the one signing thus far, Frank Vatrano. They gave him $3.65 million for 3 years. Good for Frank. Hard worker, goal scorer, guy can do a little bit of everything. I think he's going to be popular with Duck fans. I think he's honestly a really, really solid pickup for them. And considering some of the cap money that's given out, I think that's really smart money too. So Anaheim, a team that's not expected to be a playoff team next season, but they pick up a guy who can score some goals. He's not old either. And a 3-year deal, he's going to be there for a bit. Good move. The Calgary Flames pick up Kevin Rooney. $1.3 million is the cap hit over 2 years. I like Rooney. It's fine. Bottom six forward. They also added defenseman Nick Milosh. I didn't see the cap hit. I'm assuming it's $750,000. Milosh played about 50, or he played exactly, I think, 50 games for San Jose this past year. So a depth defenseman for Calgary. Zadorov, yet to be signed at the time I'm recording this. So we haven't found out how much he's going to make, but he has to be kind of happy with some of the defensemen and the money they got today, right? Edmonton, not too far north of Calgary. Jack Campbell, 5 years, $5 million cap hit for him. So that's $1 million less than what the expected cap hit was. I'm going to be honest. I'm really surprised at $5 million for 5 years. Toronto didn't just keep him. If he would have signed in Toronto for that same money, I'm really surprised the Leafs didn't just hold on to him. That considering how well he played for them and all that, I'm surprised they didn't keep him. But the Kings, again, they re-signed a player in Brendan Lemieux, but Brendan Lemieux had played in LA last year. So I'm just using that as an example, so I didn't put him on the board. Oscar Lindblom is now a member of the San Jose Sharks. The feel-good story, still a feel-good story. He's still in the NHL. $2.5 million is the cap hit for 2 years for San Jose. I'm fine with that one. Of course, they made a big trade today as well. I will be talking about trades in a separate video. This one, I just want to talk about who changed teams so far. Seattle. Good moves by Seattle. A forward and a defenseman, and I think they picked well. $3 million is the cap hit for Justin Schultz for 2 years. I like the term and I like the cap hit. Schultz can be a good defenseman. Had a little bit of an off year by his standards this year, but he can bounce back in Seattle. And they got a good young forward in Andrei Burakovsky, who's got some Stanley Cup experience, which is important. 5-year contract for Burakovsky, an average cap hit of $5.5 million. I think that's fair. The cap hit might be a little bit higher than people might have expected, but that's kind of how a bidding war works. Burakovsky, Seattle was seen as the front runner for Burakovsky early on, and it stayed that way until he signed. So, good luck to him in Seattle, and good luck to Seattle. And then Vancouver, some good moves here, and I know there's the one, we'll get to it. First off, Curtis Lazar, $1 million the cap hit for 3 years. I watched him in Boston last year, liked him in Boston, now he's in Vancouver. People know how I feel about that. So, yeah, Lazar, I think, is a good pickup for the bottom six. That's why you don't qualify Lamico or Highmore, because you're going to go out and get a guy like Lazar. And they pick up Ilya Mikheyev, and it's a gutsy move. We'll see how well it works out or how well it doesn't. And I know the cap hit, $4.75 million, 4-year contract. This is a player, though, in his 20s. This is a player who's not in his 30s. So for Mikheyev, the Canucks have some faith in him, clearly, that they're going to give him that kind of money. They could potentially put him on a line with Podkolzin. The Canucks trying to build a pretty good top nine here. They add Colin Delia. He may end up being the backup or the number 3. He may end up playing here in Abbotsford. So I thought I'd throw him on the board because, of course, there's still Spencer Martin, who probably is the guy who's going to end up being the backup to Demko. Demko may play a lot, though. Dakota Joshua, also brought in by the Canucks. The cap hit, $762,500 per season. 2-year contract for Joshua. So the Canucks revamped their bottom 6 a little bit by bringing in Lazar and Joshua. Mikheyev at a $4.75 million cap hit. They have to envision him as a top 6 winger. That is something that Benning talked for years about bringing in. This might be a contract Benning would have signed. Probably for $6 million a year. But anyways, $4.75 million. I know people are going to criticize that, and I get it. I totally get it. My eyebrows raised. If you saw the live stream, my eyebrows raised at the cap hit. But it's a move being made by Patrick Allvin, and it means that the Canucks are in the mix for a playoff spot next year. The Flames, while they add Rooney and Milosh, there's a lot of uncertainty with the Calgary Flames right now. I do think the Canucks are in a good position where they could potentially move up in their division. Nothing out of Vegas in terms of an NHL player. Now there's word of a Finnish player signing there, veteran player, but again, has not taken place as of the time I'm recording this. Just Drager reporting that that's going to happen. So for Vegas, it's been a quiet day thus far, meaning it'll get noisy for them later. Arizona picking up Troy Stetcher, $1.2 million. Fair for him. Nick Bjugstad gets $900,000, so they pick up a couple of veterans. They had some veteran contracts that expired, so it makes sense to pick up others. The Chicago Blackhawks, as we continue to get into the Central Division here, add Max Domi for $3 million. They also added Andreas Athanasiou for $3 million. So throwing some money at both players. 1-year contracts tells you, so they might be rentals at the deadline then, right? Alex Stalock, goaltender, picked up for $750,000, league minimum. Colin Blackwell signs a 2-year deal. The cap is a $1.2 million hit for him over those 2 years. Colorado just brought everybody back. They didn't worry about signing anybody outside the organization. They just brought everybody back. Burakovsky, the only one who's officially left the team thus far, but Kadri is still out there as a UFA. We'll see where he ends up. Dallas made me happy, and again, if you were watching the live stream, you would have seen my reaction at the end, and that was genuine. I love Mason Marchment's game. I am very happy with Mason Marchment. Again, the cap hit does raise eyebrows a bit. $4.5 million over 4 years. So both Vancouver with Mikheyev, Dallas with Marchment, bringing in players who are in their mid-20s, who they envision as playing a more prominent role in their organizations than they did in the ones they're taking them from. So for Marchment, there is some risk to that contract, to that cap hit and all that, but I do like that Dallas brings Marchment in. They definitely needed another guy who could put the puck in the net. They get that with Marchment. And so, yeah, we'll see how things work out. Minnesota, quiet thus far. Nashville, quiet thus far. Expected with both teams. St. Louis, minor moves here so far. Thomas Greiss comes in on a $1.5 million contract to play backup. Noel Acciari, $1.25 million for Acciari. Can be useful at times. His ending in Florida was quiet on the way out, but he had some good times in Florida. We'll see if he does the same for St. Louis. The Winnipeg Jets, having to replace their backup goalie who had left. They bring in David Riddick on a contract for $900,000. Riddick's had some tough times, I will agree. The last couple years have not been fantastic for Riddick. That being said, I do hope he bounces back with Winnipeg this year. Boston, quiet outside of the trade. Again, I'll be talking about trades in a separate video. Buffalo, Ilya Lyubushkin signs there $2.75 million for 2 years for Lyubushkin. I like Lyubushkin, and again, I'm looking at that cap hit and thinking, I'm surprised Toronto didn't find a way to keep him. Eric Comrie, $1.8 million as the cap hit over 2 years. He had a very good year in Winnipeg. I think Buffalo should be happy with him. There's a debate about whether or not Buffalo, the market, should be excited about this team. I will say, and I've been saying this lately, I think they're going to be better than they've been for a while. Whether or not that means playoffs, I think it's way too early to say, but they're going to be better than I think a lot of people may realize. Then Detroit. Steve Yzerman knows how to make a scene here. Starts off with Andrew Kopp, $5.625 million as the cap hit over 5 years. It may again be a little rich, and that's that's where free agency is always interesting to me, is that we'll look at these contracts, people will tear apart the Mikheyev, they'll say Marchman's too high, people will say Kopp's too high, but that's how the free agent market works. And so for GMs who are quiet today, and we want to say, what a loser that GM is, yeah, but they didn't sign those contracts. So we'll see whether or not Kopp's contract is high, but he's a really good Swiss Army knife forward. I can't wait to see him with Detroit. Mickey Redmond's going to love his game. Olli Mata signing, blue liner, $2.25 million for him. And then one that I will say is a little bit high here, $4.75 million a year for Sherratt. 4-year contract for Ben Sherratt on their blue line. Sherratt had an up and down year this past season. I'm a little bit surprised at the cap hit being where it is. But again, Yzerman proves us wrong over and over again. He will prove us wrong again. And then just before, while I was putting this together, Dominik Kubalik signed with Detroit as well. This was revealed to be a $2.5 million per season contract over 2 years. So Kubalik adds some depth scoring. Kopp's a good forward, and they added depth on the blue line with both Mata and Sherratt. Remember, there are still more rookies coming into this lineup over the next year or two, and so these veterans will help shepherd them along. Then we get to what Florida did. They added Colin White, who was bought out by the Ottawa Senators. It's a $1.2 million show-me deal. Just the 1 year for Colin White. No risk really for Florida there. Nick Cousins, there is no Mark Cousins. Nick Cousins gets a $1.1 million per season contract for 2 years. So the cap hit $1.1 million. Mark Stahl, there's the mark. $750,000 contract for Mark Stahl. And the good part of this is they also signed Eric Stahl to a professional tryout contract. I would imagine they called Carolina and said, so about Jordan, and then they hung up. Carolina would hang up. So Eric Stahl and Mark Stahl have an opportunity to play together if Eric makes the team. Based on this past year, I don't know what I would put the odds at for Eric Stahl to actually make the team, though. That I'm a little bit below 50% on, even though I want to be wrong on that one too. Montreal, quiet, other than signing Slafkovsky. A lot of the draft picks from less than a week ago signed their entry-level contracts today, including Shane Wright. So he is officially a Seattle Kraken. Claude Giroux signs with Ottawa. They've already done the press conference, and Pierre Dorion said that he talked to Melnyk 4 years ago about how Giroux, he felt, would help them get to where they want to be. And I will say this in defense of Eugene Melnyk. He did say this was when he expected to be spending to the cap and that the Senators would be getting into a position of contention. So while people are saying, well, this is, Eugene passed away and suddenly Ottawa's getting better, Eugene said the team would get better and that he was willing to spend the money once we reach this point in the rebuild. So Giroux gets $6.5 million as the cap hit for 3 seasons. And he's quite happy, and he can walk to the arena if he wants to. So they made that joke during the press conference. So Giroux gets to go home, and it's a feel-good story right now. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, they signed Ian Cole. I believe it's $3 million for him. I didn't see the exact number, but I believe it's $3 million. Vlad Namestnikov is added for $2.5 million. And, of course, Tampa Bay decided, we have some money here we'd like to get rid of. Let's just give it all to Cirelli, Sergachev, and Chernak, and then we never have to worry about talking to their agents again. I'd laugh if it was the same agent, because, boy, he'd be rolling in the money. Anyways, Namestnikov returns to Tampa. He's been there before. Tampa Bay again trying to get back to that Stanley Cup final for a 4th straight year and win that 3rd cup. Then Toronto, because Toronto makes moves. That's what they do. Ilya Samsonov goes there for $1.8 million. Nick Aube-Kubel signs there for $1 million, and they bring in Adam Gaudette, $750,000 for Toronto. So if you wanted Toronto to make a big move, today was not necessarily the day unless you envision that Samsonov can get back to where he was projected to be, or with the kind of goaltender he looked like he would be early in his career with Washington, and it just didn't pan out there. Carolina, quiet outside of the Brent Burns trade that I will be talking about, as I said, in another video. So Columbus fans during the live stream said, so we're not doing anything. And I said, Columbus probably pretty quiet. They're probably, talking to Line A and Restricteds and trying to make sure they keep things together. Eric Goodbranson, $4 million for 4 years. The reaction on Twitter, I'm right there. I saw that cap hit and I said, wow. Now, Goodbranson, in Goodbranson's defense, Goodbranson can be a very good defenseman. Goodbranson had a very good year this year, It does not necessarily translate to Columbus. So hopefully Jarmo Kekalainen already has written down exactly where he's going to go, got visions of exactly how this is going to work, and he's right. Because that Goodbranson $4 million cap hit, it can end up being an issue. We've seen that when his cap hit was what, 3.3 million? I think it was 3.3 million in Vancouver. But yeah, Goodbranson, he gets paid. That's $16 million. So good job, Goodbranson. You do you. New Jersey added Brendan Smith, $1.1 million cap hit for 2 years. See if they, 4 Brendan Smiths make a Eric Goodbranson, almost. It's 4.4 versus 4. Anyways. Islanders have not got done what I think they want to get done yet. Johnny Hockey's name is still out there, of course. So, yeah, the Islanders, they look like they haven't done anything yet, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not working on it. And then the Rangers, who've been busy. First, they signed Vincent Trocheck. Trocheck, $5.625 million per season for 7 years. They bring in Jaro Halak. They give him $1.55 million. And again, as a Canucks fan, who's also a Bruins fan, he really has to bounce back from 2 down years. He's had 2 back-to-back down years by his standards. And in both Boston and Vancouver, it was clear he was done by the end of the year. He was not coming back. That door had closed. So hopefully it goes better for him with the Rangers. Louis Domingue brought in. Good story. He's a good chef too. 2 years, $775,000 is the cap hit for him. I did this one backwards. It makes it look like $2 million for 775,000 years. See what I did for you there, Mr. Domingue? You're welcome. You can cook and bake and just do your whole chef thing forever, because the Rangers signed him to a ridiculously long contract. I didn't think that one through. Philadelphia, making their fans wonder what's going on. Nick Delorier getting $1.9 million for 4 years. So it is almost $8 million, $7.6 million for Delorier. Now, I like Nick Delorier. I understand the advanced stats. He doesn't help your team offensively, and he's kind of invisible in other areas. But I do like that he's an enforcer, that he can go out there, he can score the odd goal here and there. And he is prominent at times, and I understand he can hurt, but 4 years seems like a lot. Justin Braun signs a 1-year deal, $1 million. He returns to Philly. He played 8 games with the Rangers after the trade, and now he's back in Philly. So welcome back, Justin Braun. Whereas Pittsburgh, they go out to get Dustin Tokarski to be their new number 3. Now that Domingue is gone, $775,000 for Tokarski, who had a good year with Buffalo. Jan Ruda, 3-year deal, $2.75 million cap hit for Jan Ruda. That's how you cap in on winning yourself a Stanley Cup and playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Washington Capitals, they went goalie hunting, and they got themselves 2. They get Darcy Kemper, $5.25 million cap hit for 5 years. And then they get Charlie Sideburns. Charlie Lindgren is now a Washington Capital, 3-year contract, $1.1 million. So if they sign him for $1.1 million a year, the plan is to play him. I don't think the plan is to send him to the AHL. But there you go. So that is through 3 hours. We'll see what else happens from here. I will absolutely do other videos as the day goes on, as I usually do. I think my record for free agency was like 15 videos or something insane. Not planning on doing that today, but we'll see. We never know what might happen. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video. This is always the time when people declare winners and losers. I will say this. I do like Vancouver, what they did today. I like Detroit's signings, even though a couple of the cap hits might be head scratchers. I do think that Ottawa continues to amaze and astound in the offseason. And again, if you want to say, well, Claude Giroux will never win a Stanley Cup. If Ottawa makes the playoffs, I don't think people are going to be all that concerned if they go out in the first or second round. Ottawa being back in the playoffs for the first time in a half a decade, that's considered a success this year. Then we can worry about the Stanley Cups after that. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It was a fun live stream. I will talk to you again soon.